Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. And another heavyweight news mashup video today, starting with Joyce and Martin Piccoli, a hard sparring session that they've had together ahead of their upcoming respective fights. So Joyce later this month, he'll be facing Mikhail Wallisch on a Frank Warren card on BT, and Bakole, he'll be facing Sergey Kuzmin. That will be on August the 22nd. He's on the undercard of the Dillian Whyte-Alexander Povetkin pay-per-view event. That's the fourth of 4 matchroom cards as part of their fight camp. But in respect of the sparring, so sort of news of it came out on social media via Kugan Cassius, who was obviously there to interview the pair afterwards, but he tweeted that it was an absolute war. And you can see on screen, here's the photo that he posted. Then later, Joyce comes out with his own post saying, "Thanks for the work, Martin Piccoli, a big, strong heavyweight, top sparring." And Bakole came out with his own post thanking Joyce for bringing him down for that sparring. But in the subsequent interview on IFL TV, both very complimentary of the other. Joyce saying of Bakole that he was a big, strong heavyweight, a tank coming forward, and Bakole said that he'd never actually been hit with as many punches like this, even against Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury. So it sounds like very good work, and it sounds like you wanted to be a fly on the wall watching that session. Meanwhile, Tyson Fury, who'll have a third fight with Deontay Wilder at some point, potentially this year, maybe it will be pushed to 2021, he's delivered a message on social media for Deontay Wilder.
Wilder, I'm with you, sucker.
The WBA regular title holder, Mahmoud Charr, who hasn't defended the belt since winning it in 2017 against Alexander Ustinov, has doubled down on his call-out of Andy Ruiz Jr. So for the second day in a row, he's calling Ruiz out in this statement saying, "Andy Ruiz, I give you the opportunity to become a world champion again. Accept my challenge and do not hide behind your manager or your promoter. This is about the two of us. Mexico style versus Osmanish style. I give you the opportunity to box for a world championship. Be a man and fight me. I come to USA or to Mexico. I guarantee you one that will be a ring battle. Number 1 versus number 4. And that last part, number 1 versus number 4, he must be meaning in terms of the WBA rankings, which he posted on the left-hand side of that post, with Ruiz Jr. number 4 currently in the WBA. And actually, Mahmoud Charr is above the rankings, so he's not really number 1 because Trevor Bryan holds that place. And Trevor Bryan and Mahmoud Charr were meant to be fighting. That was ordered. There was a purse bid. This was earlier in the year. Who knows what's happened with that? But I would say, though, this here, I mean, it's been no secret that an Andy Ruiz Jr. and Chris Arreola fight is about to get made. It's been an open secret for weeks now, and Chris Arreola even features in the WBA rankings. He was parachuted in at number 7. So there's a reason that he was put there, and probably because he's going to be fighting Andy Ruiz Jr. And they've been close to making that fight for some considerable time. Joe Goosen said as much a couple of weeks ago. So, you know, if Ruiz does fight Arreola, I do hope that Mahmoud Charr, Manuel Charr, whatever we're calling him, isn't going to try and make out that Andy Ruiz ducked him, because it's been known for some time that Ruiz Jr. was going to be fighting Arreola, and they're on the home stretch of making that fight. And obviously the PBC hasn't announced their schedule yet, so it's probably a done deal already. But it does look like Mahmoud Charr, knowing that Ruiz is probably going to be unavailable, is probably going to call out Ruiz and say that Ruiz ducked him, which I don't think really is based in reality. If Mahmoud Charr wanted to fight Ruiz, he could have been making these call-outs, you know, really strong call-outs like he is now, a number of months ago. Could have campaigned for the fight, but he's only done that now, so you have to ask why. More likely he ends up fighting Trevor Bryan, or being ordered to face someone else. Remembering there's a whole bunch of PBC guys between number 3 and number 7 in the WBA rankings, so the WBA could order him to face one of them, Luis Ortiz being one of them, Adam Kovnatski potentially. So there is options there, or fights there I should say, but the WBA really does need to clarify this Trevor Bryan and Mahmoud Charr situation. Are they going to fight or not? Because obviously it almost happened. Meanwhile, Chris Arreola, who looks set to face Andy Ruiz Jr., says that he doesn't really have any sympathy for Ruiz, but he does realise why Andy Ruiz Jr. went off the rails. So he stated, I probably would have been doing the same thing. You've got to remember this. 1 month he fights Dimitrenko for 10,000, 8,000. 6 weeks later he's fighting for 4 million. 10 weeks later he's fighting for 10 million. How do you expect him to be a humble man? We come from nothing. I come from nothing. Having that kind of money, I wouldn't know, and I didn't know how to handle myself. So no, I don't have no sympathy. I understand where he comes from, and I understand what happened. You live and you learn. I was drinking Corona, I was partying, I would show up whatever I wanted to show up in the gym. I would come up with excuses on the way to the gym. I would say that my car needs an oil change, I need new tires. You know, there's always an excuse. Like I said, coming from having nothing and then having everything. An open workout has been held in Germany ahead of Agit Kabayel's headline fight on an SES show this weekend in Magdeburg, Germany. Kabayel will be facing Evgenios Lazaridis. Now this shapes as a high-level tune-up for Kabayel, who is expected to win this one. He's been out of the ring since March 2019, when he beat, in quite conclusive fashion, Andrei Rudenko. But inactivity has been plaguing Kabayel's career, so this is a comeback fight of sorts. It has been picked up by ESPN+. Kabayel is on a co-promotional deal with SES and Top Rank, so he was due to make an appearance in the ring in the States earlier this year, but visa issues precluded that happening. And the WBA's Continental Heavyweight title will be on the line this weekend for that fight. And there will be limited fans in attendance, 1,000 people, which the WBA says is a great advance in the reactivation of boxing and is great news for both fans and the fighters. Local organisers will have great health protocol and will comply with all the rules to ensure a great event. And that's from a press release on the WBA's website. And another fighter on that card is Peter Kadiru. He's featuring another heavyweight. He says that he is ready to fight, ready to get back in the ring. I'm well prepared and hungry to fight. And a third heavyweight fight has actually been added to that card. A Kenyan heavyweight who I haven't seen fight before, Collins Omondi Ojal, 35 years old, 3-0. He will be taking on Georgij Fibic, who is currently 1-0. So a total of 3 heavyweight fights on that card. The Ukrainian heavyweight Igor Shevadzutskiy, who's currently 4-0 and is returning to the ring on August the 1st on an Alexander Usyk promoted card in Ukraine. He says that he's ready to take on the big boys, telling Export, I'm ready. I want to fight the best, Joshua, Wilder or Povetkin. It makes no difference to me. Make a fight. I will come out to fight. And for me, I think this is a bit premature. Currently 4-0, no one will entertain that call out. He would actually be better calling out some of the names on that August 1st card. And you can see here on this promo poster for it, which Shevadzutskiy doesn't feature on because he's lower down the undercard. He's a lesser known heavyweight at this point. You have Vlad Tsarenko on the left, Alexander Zakozy, who's next to Tsarenko on the far right hand side. You also have Victor Vikhurst. And at this point, I'd probably pick all of those guys to beat Shevadzutskiy, but I do like his moxie and the call-out, but it is optimistic, to say the least. And Jared Anderson has weighed in ahead of his fight with Hector Perez, which has sort of been on again, off again, finally scheduled for July 16th. Anderson, 241.8 pounds on the scale. And that's actually 5 pounds more than his fight a month ago when he fought Johnny Langston and he stopped him in 3 rounds. Hector Perez, his opponent, 220.7 pounds. There was an issue with a sample ahead of what would have been a July 9th fight fight for Perez, hence the reason it was moved. Originally, it was pushed back to July the 21st and now moved to this card. And given the main event for this card, one of the opponents came in about 9 pounds overweight, they needed Anderson and Perez on this card to help fill it out. Only 4 fights on this card. It was meant to be 5, but just the 4 now. But Anderson, he should have no issue with Perez. The 20-year-old American, quite raw, but obviously very talented. He's aiming to go 5-0 and likely wants another stoppage to keep that streak alive. But what do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.